and welcome again.
What's up, Adam?
Hey, Casey, how's it going tonight?
Super. It's another Friday night.
And,
92.5 WLSD.
Yeah. And we are Real Talk. We have a great movie in store tonight.
Absolutely.
And a little bit of, excuse me, a little bit of, I guess, somber music
Yeah. Well,
to start the show.
Well, yeah, it suits the movie.
Yeah, perfectly. Perfectly. And for those just tuning in, you are listening to Real Talk on 92.5 WLSD, The Vault. We are Real Talk. I'm Adam.
I'm Casey.
And we're going to have a great show tonight.
Absolutely.
I really think so.
This was a really bizarre movie.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's a movie that I'm glad that we revisited this movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in quite some time. But man, it's one of those movies that if you're not paying attention, you are going to get way lost.
Yeah. I think so too. So, better?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we please check out our social media. Go to Facebook, Spotify, YouTube. You can check us out. The Other People's Show, Real Talk. We had a great show last week.
Yeah, that was a fantastic show.
With Anthony Wayne.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to him being on again.
Yeah, me too. Does that sound better? Levels sound better now?
A little bit. I keep hearing myself.
Yeah.
It's almost like I'm coming through the monitors.
Yeah, very weird.
Picking it up. It's strange.
Yeah, it is strange. We'll try to work on that throughout the show.
If it sounds all right on air,
that's all we care about.
Yeah, I can deal with it.
Yeah. So yeah, please check out the social media and go to, I don't think we've mentioned this since we've been on WLSD. If you go to the Other People's Show, we have a short film in Dreams streaming.
Yes.
So please check that out. It is in the Frankenfest Film Festival in Knoxville.
Remind me when that is.
So June 10th.
June 10th. I knew it was coming up soon.
Yep, Saturday, June 10th. So.
Fantastic. Oh, June's a big month. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I think so too. So what we're going to get into tonight is Memento. It is, let's see this for a synopsis. A man with short-term memory loss attempts to track down his wife's murderer.
Yep.
Murderer, sorry.
Murderers.
Yes.
Possibly.
Yeah.
No, it's bizarre.
I think so too. And it's a movie that, I'd seen it back when it came out. I saw it on DVD. I think I rented it.
Yeah.
And I'd seen it once, and I remember liking it. But now going back some 22 years later, it came out in 2000, so 23 years later.
Now. Almost.
I appreciate this movie so much more than I ever did to begin with.
Yeah, it was good. I'll tell you what, it took me. I was getting lost in it for a minute. Like I was having a hard time keeping up.
Right.
And I half dozed for a minute, but once it kind of gets into the second half, because it's again one of those movies that's almost split into two halves in a way.
Right.
But it picked up the second half, and it kind of captured my interest again. But you get stuck in this same loop that he does when you're watching a movie, and you keep finding yourself like, whoa, like, wait a minute, didn't we just see this?
Yeah.
Didn't
Yeah.
this just happen?
Yeah.
But no, it keeps you. It kind of keeps you guessing in a way, and again, if you're not paying attention, you're gonna. Again, I dozed off for a minute, and I woke up, and I was like, "Wait, what is going on?"
Yeah, you're going to miss a lot of stuff if you don't pay attention every second of the movie, because it plays in reverse, and it's kind of like I don't want to say a mind-bending movie, but if you look at Christopher Nolan's filmography since then, you can see his progression.
Yeah.
With this type of, messing with time.
Yeah. Yeah, it messes with it in a big way because it's definitely told backwards.
Yes.
But forwards, like at the same time.
Yeah.
Like the story is going backwards in time, but each scene is playing, forwards. It's advancing the story forward. But it's really bizarre, and it took me a minute. It actually took me a little bit into the movie to realize that's what was happening.
The structure of the film.
Yeah, like, okay, wait, so this is happening prior to this last scene
Yeah.
with Natalie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Carrie Ann Moss's character.
Yeah. And it also, if you go in, and this will come up a little bit later, but the sequences, there's some sequences in color and some in black and white. And that plays a significant, I guess the time lapse and those different fragments of film play a big part as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because the colored ones go forward. Wait, I'm trying to think now.
The black and white ones was when he would be recounting the story about Sammy.
Yeah, Sammy Jenkins.
Stuff, yeah, Sam. That was all in black and white, but it seems like there was scenes.
So most of it until it interlaps, that goes in forward motion.
Yeah.
And then when it starts in color, it goes in reverse. Yeah. And that's when we keep seeing a little bit. Hey, haven't we seen this?
Yeah, but then it cuts to all those scenes with him in the hotel room on the phone.
Yeah.
With for a long time you don't know, like I didn't know who he was even talking to, and you realize he's talking to a cop, and of course it's
Teddy.
Yeah. Which as this movie plays out, you find out, in the end. But again, you're still kind of wondering in the end, like wait a minute, was that
exactly what's going on?
What is going on here? Still, I paid attention pretty good, and I tried to pay attention to the loops, and even when the movie was over, I was like, I'm still kind of confused, because I was like, at a certain point, it kind of, there's that scene towards the end where all the pieces are kind of falling into place, you know what I mean? And you, as the viewer, is starting to realize what's actually happening.
Right.
And that, Sammy's not even, that whole storyline was actually him. It was actually Guy Pearce's character.
Yeah.
Which is weird, and I had a feeling it might be heading that way, but then there's that scene towards the end where he's showing Sammy in the mental institution, and that's they're showing Sammy in the mental institution. Yeah. He's sitting in there, and he there's that quick flash where you see that quick flash of Guy Pearce's character.
Yeah.
All of a sudden in the chair, it's like, like real quick, and much better.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this sounds better.
Yeah.
Because that microphone was being quite janky on me. I don't even know what was going on. So our apologies.
Yeah.
On that.
So we have Guy Pearce, Carrie Ann Moss, and Joe. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name.
Pantoliano, I think.
Pantoliano,
something like that.
And he's in quite a few movies.
Pantoliano, yeah, something like that. Yeah, and I was trying to remember.
He's in The Matrix.
Yeah.
With Carrie Ann Moss.
Right, that was.
He's Cypher.
Yeah. He's the character that reminds you in The Matrix. That's like why you don't want to escape the Matrix.
Yeah.
Because like his whole character in that one is like about getting back in. Yep. I don't want to remember any of this.
And he has a great life when he goes back in. Yeah. Like you remember he's eating a steak or something, great.
Well, that's one of the things about that movie, which is weird. We're talking about The Matrix. Right. We're supposed to be doing Memento, but one thing about The Matrix, that movie gets talked about a lot. And I think it's gotten talked about so much that I don't know that we should ever bother even doing it. Or maybe, I don't know. But one thing I always find interesting is that nobody ever discusses how crappy everything is outside the Matrix. Like, life looks like it sucks. It looks like really bad. You know what I mean? And so
I would rather be
in the Matrix.
In the Matrix.
Yes, absolutely. And so it kind of becomes nobody ever wants to talk about that part.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it is better in the Matrix.
Yeah, I think I would want to continue living
in that context of that movie. It's like,
why would you want to live in the real world?
No,
this is the real world?
Right, now. Plug me back in.
So we have Memento, directed by Christopher Nolan. He's known for the Batman saga, Inception, The Prestige,
a bunch of stuff.
Tenet,
a good one.
Interstellar, and the underrated Insomnia. Have you ever seen Insomnia?
Remind me.
It's got Al Pacino,
because it sounds familiar.
Robin Williams, and Hilary Swank.
It seems like
and it takes place in Alaska.
Mm.
And
oh yes, I think I have. Isn't he like a cop?
Yep.
Or something, detective or something?
It's a really good movie.
He's like wandering around because it's like the 6 months of daylight and stuff. It's 3:00 in the morning. It's like bright as hell outside.
It's actually a really good underrated Christopher Nolan movie that really no one ever talks about.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
not a lot of people talk about Memento anymore either.
No, they sure don't. Insomnia could be a good one to do.
Yeah. So let's see the facts. It's got a $9 million budget. Kind of surprised me
Yeah,
because I mean, the talent was there, but the talent, I'm sure, because this was considered more of an independent movie at the time,
sure.
who would command the most money? Guy Pearce? Because Guy Pearce is an actor, but he's not somebody I would call a movie star, right?
Yeah.
No, he's not Keanu Reeves or Tom Cruise or
Okay,
Ben
so
Stiller.
At this point, had The Matrix come out? This was 2000.
The Matrix had been out. But Carrie Ann Moss wasn't. She was never established as an actress that could carry a movie on her own. She was always going to be a co-star or
Right.
featuring, the and person on the end. You know what I mean?
And yeah. Yeah.
So because she'd been in a couple of flop movies too. She was in Red Planet with Val Kilmer the same year as this, which lost thousands of millions. I don't know why I said thousands.
And it wasn't a horrible space movie. I didn't think. I only half remember, but I remember watching it.
I remember
all the way through.
I used to run into the theater and watch trailers of certain movies because I was like I'm excited about it. And Red Planet was one of them.
Oh yeah.
And I thought it had a really cool trailer, and I watched the movie. I enjoyed it, but I've only seen it once.
Yeah.
And I tried
I only
to watch
remember
it the other night, but it was only to rent or to buy.
Yeah.
So
and
I'm
you
like,
didn't.
well.
So that kind of tells you.
I was like,
It kind of tells you right there.
Is it worth $4?
Yeah. Is it worth going to cinema and trying to find? Oh, yours is. Yeah, you got to bring that by the house.
I'm gonna have to bring that over.
Yeah,
mine's not working. So $9 million. It made $25.5 million in America, and worldwide $40 million. So
so that's definitely a success.
hit movie.
No doubt about it.
Rotten Tomatoes 97%.
Yeah, which when I was watching it and I had this itinerary in front of me, and like I said, the first half of the movie, I was just like, I was getting dozy. I was like, oh, this is starting to lose me right now. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, 97%. Wow. Like 92% audience rating, like high IMDb score. And I was just like, wow. But then again, once I kind of, honestly, I paused it.
Right.
I got up. I went to the kitchen. I got something to drink. Kind of
Right.
moved around a little bit. I was laying in the bed watching it. It might have been foolish. But
Because it's a quiet movie.
it is a quiet movie, and I'd already worked today and all that. And so
And
I'm
it's a
stretched
movie
out in bed chilling. And I was,
Since we've decided that we were going to do this movie, I've actually put this movie on. I've seen it a couple times, but I've put it on to drift off to sleep.
yeah, no,
as well.
I can easily see it being one of those movies.
Yeah, because it's very subtle.
Yeah,
very
I used to do
quiet.
that with The Hunt for Red October all the time.
I used to do it with Seven, the movie Seven.
Oh, interesting.
Have you seen Seven?
I have, and isn't that Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman? Yeah.
I think and Jake and I did that on the show on the movies
would
a
be a
couple
good
years
one.
back, and it would be a great one to revisit. But that's one of the best, in my opinion, serial killer movies.
Sure.
And the performances are flawless. All of them.
Well, I mean, that's a hell of a cast.
Yeah, I mean all of them. So let's see. We've got in the facts. Now this is another name, Stephen. Do you want to give a name? Try his last name.
Where am I on? Oh, Steven
Tobolowsky?
Tobolowsky. No, that sounds right to me. Tobolowsky.
He stated that he had mentioned to Nolan that he had experienced amnesia personally in his private life.
Yeah, I have too.
Really?
Yeah. It was honestly, I had, this is a couple of years ago, and I had a hell of a drinking problem, honestly. Led to some withdrawals and I had seizures, and I have a week that to this day I don't really remember. I mean, I can remember points of it to a degree, but for the most part, like I had a seizure, and then I woke up, I was in the hospital, and like a couple of days had passed already. And I came home, I got released from the hospital, came home, I had another seizure, and didn't end up going back to the hospital or whatever, but there's a whole big story behind that. But yeah, like a week of my life that I just still can't remember. I spent probably the next month after that, I swear to you, just half staring out the window, I think, just trying to remember like what happened. And I still don't. There's a lot of stuff in there that I just don't remember.
Wow.
I should probably be thankful for it, honestly.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Well, this movie raises a lot of questions as far as like how miserable your life would be, and how if you only remember, because he can only remember, for those that you haven't watched it, he can only remember he's had an accident. Well, I guess some guys break in, beat his wife.
Yeah.
And he's knocked to the ground, injury.
Yep.
And then he wakes up, but he can't form any new memories.
No new memories. That's his condition. He says it a lot. He talks about it a lot.
Yeah. And so therefore he can remember the things like, he used to have to give his wife, insulin? Well, he tells the story.
Of Sammy,
which later in the movie you find out is
actually him.
Yeah.
It's actually his story.
Yeah. And so he can remember, how to drive a car, but he has to take, at the time, Polaroid photos.
Yeah.
Writing notes, tattooing himself with information.
Yeah.
He doesn't know
Which
how
is
long
wild.
he's been in this condition.
Yeah, and you as the viewer don't really know as the movie's going on, like, well, wait a minute, no. So once you start realizing this condition and this dilemma he's in, and it's crazy because you realize towards the end that he's telling this story he's telling his own story through this Sammy character.
Yeah.
That he supposedly, he was an insurance claims person.
And he even has something about Sammy tattooed on his wrist.
Remember Sammy, I can't remember what his name was. The last
Sammy
name.
Jenkins,
yeah. And so, but you find out that, I can't remember where I was going with my thought there.
Well, it's kind of like...
It's
when you start the movie, you're thrust into the movie as if you know just about as much about Teddy or the people on screen as the character does.
Oh yeah,
and you're in the
just
dark.
Don't know. It's all of a sudden you're just in the story.
Yeah, and as it's revealed to him, it is kind of revealed to the audience.
Yes,
which
correct.
I think is a great.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the geniuses of this film that I didn't really understand as much when I was younger. But now, doing screenwriting and all this stuff, this is a great, puzzle. Really.
Yeah. Well, I remember where I was going with my thought, and when he's telling the story through Sammy's character, he's talking about how he's keeping all the notes, doing all the same stuff that he's doing, but he starts getting confused and lost in his notes. And he's changing stuff and scratching stuff out, and you start realizing he's doing the same thing. So he's still conscious almost that that's happening, but not really. It's very bizarre, and when you start really looking at the dilemma and the not being able to remember stuff. And,
I mean, if he doesn't focus on, if he were here now, unless he was focusing on what we were saying completely, he could look away or go to the bathroom, come back, and
not remember.
Know.
Yeah. Well, because there's this really pretty intense scene, probably one of the more intense scenes in the movie with Carrie Ann Moss, where she's just like ripping into him, man, just like calling him out. I'm not even I can't even say half the stuff on the air. You know what I mean? But and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, I remember.
Whoa, and you're just like, and she's just telling him, I'm going to use you. And just the whole 9 yards. And
she tells him everything because it's unraveled as you progress. And, and I'd forgot, honestly, that's the way it ended.
Yeah.
Like, I'd forgot that was the unraveling, to be honest with you. And I didn't read anything about it until after I'd rewatched it.
Yeah, and the thing about the movie is, like, it has an ending, but it doesn't really have an ending.
No. It's
still, you're just around. Like, it just circles around, and you're still just kind of left sitting there like, whoa, like, what just happened? I mean...
And I think that's one reason this movie has great rewatchability.
Probably, because there's probably a lot of stuff to pick up in there.
Because we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah,
so it took 25 days to shoot. All the dialogue in the black and white sequences with Sammy were improvised.
Interesting. So I guess that was between him and the wife, I guess, because that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
It seems like maybe at the beginning it was with the doctor or something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's
interesting.
Christopher Nolan and his brother came up with the idea on a cross-country trip from on the itinerary I have from DC, but it was actually Chicago.
Oh yeah,
Chicago.
I had read in, I want to say it was Ebert's review of this. He was talking about it, that it basically was based on a short story.
Yeah.
That his brother had written.
Yeah, and it later on got published.
Right, correct.
Yeah, in the Esquire magazine. And so that was kind of cool. Carrie Ann Moss shot her scenes in 8 days.
I can see that, because, I mean, again, it's a lot of the same scene, but maybe playing out a little bit further in a way. It's
well,
they pick up where the last scene like that you saw.
Yeah.
You know. But again, like there's this whole run of scenes with Carrie Ann Moss. Again, it's the scene that I was referring to earlier.
She is
like
brutal.
The way it all plays out. But the way it plays out, it's in a matter of like you almost feel like in his head, like some time has probably really passed. But you as a viewer know that she comes in, tells him this whole story about Jimmy, gets him amped up. He punches her. She goes out the door, waits like a couple of minutes, comes back in, and tells him a completely different story about where the bloody nose came from. He doesn't remember that he's the one that just did it.
No.
And just, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I'd forgotten that she... You know, you come to find out that everyone basically is using him.
You could completely...
You know? And that kind of made me feel sympathetic toward him.
Yeah.
Because the deeper you go with him, the more and more you realize, oh, well, the guy... we're charging you for 2 rooms.
Yeah.
How many rooms are you really charging?
Yeah,
you know?
like really.
You know, I often wonder the only thing that the only hole in the logic was he would, if this has been going on about a year, right?
Right.
Would he have any money left at this point?
Right. Well, that's one of the things you like,
know?
And that's one of the things you don't really realize till you're getting towards the end of the movie. Because I find myself asking that because, again, like, okay, you don't remember anything, so how do you even remember that you even have this condition, that you can't remember anything to
right.
begin with? You know what I mean? Like, and yeah, like, where did the money come from? Like, and
because if they
how
knew...
long have you been doing this? Has this been going on for decades? You know, or like what? Of course, you kind of find out it's been about a year.
Yeah.
But then I wondered too. I was like, okay, so was he in a mental institution? But I guess he must not have been. Or he must have been in some kind of rehabilitative center, I would imagine.
Yeah. It never really says. I guess it comes,
But it's like, how in the hell, like, okay, like in the real world, if somebody couldn't remember past a couple of minutes, would they be out driving around a car? And so probably not.
No.
Like, could you even imagine driving? Who even knows what would happen? You wouldn't even remember where you were going.
No, he has photos of the Parkway Inn.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called or something like that?
Budget in or something.
Yeah, he has a Polaroid, so he doesn't really know.
Yeah, and half the time he's rolling by like things he finds, like, I found this in my pocket, so I showed up.
Or he's looking in the mirror and just happens to see these random tattoos on himself.
Yeah, and then like starts following that lead.
That trail,
yeah. Again.
So Leonard which was played by Guy Pearce. The names that were considered for the part of Leonard were Aaron Eckhart, Brad Pitt. This one surprised me. Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, which is weird. The first 2 I can see.
And Thomas Jane, who is best known probably for, what would you think, The Punisher?
Maybe I haven't even seen The Punisher.
He's in the 2004 Punisher. He's also in Boogie Nights. He had a show on Showtime, and he's played like. Hollywood tried to pump him up back in the early 2000s to be a big leading man.
Yeah, it didn't just pan out, apparently.
No, but I always thought he was a good actor.
Yeah, I could have easily seen Aaron Eckhart in it because even Guy Pearce, I mean, there's a bit of a resemblance. And Brad Pitt, there was numerous times, because again, I had this itinerary here, in front of me, and I was like, well, yeah, no, there's a lot of times I could see Brad Pitt.
Guy Pearce and Brad Pitt do favor one another.
Yeah, it reminded me of like Brad Pitt in like California.
Yeah.
Kind of Brad Pitt, like way back in the day kind of stuff. Or that Brad Pitt looking like Thelma and Louise.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of Brad Pitt.
Yeah. So let's get into this was something that I didn't know. This was just Teddy's phone number is the same as Marla Singer's phone number is from Fight Club.
That is interesting.
So I didn't notice what his number was in the movie.
Yeah.
But when I was looking up some research, I found that, and I was like, that's kind of a cool.
That is a cool little
Easter egg, I guess.
Well played, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
On the Easter egg. Yeah.
Yeah. So plot story, like we said, very. I don't know if it played out. This movie I don't think it'd play out in chronological order. I don't think the movie would work.
No, it would be a different movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
because the audience would know more than they should know going in this, because I like going in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I had read too that you talking about the play on time, and it was similar to the article referenced a 1983 movie. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. I should have wrote it down. But usually using a similar kind of thing where,
Right.
Well, what's a pretty popular trope anyway for movies starting at the beginning and then playing it backwards.
Yeah,
kind
because
of,
this had no three. Because this has no
took
three.
a minute to catch on to what was happening though.
Yeah, it did.
Because I felt like at the beginning, I felt like I was watching the same scene. You know, it's the same scenes over and
Again
over
and
until
again
I
and again.
realized I was like, oh no, wait.
It's
No,
going
wait,
back to
I'm
a certain point.
I'm backing up. You know, this is what led into the previous scene
Yeah.
of these two people or whatever. So.
Well, just like in one, well, we'll get to this in a second, but yeah, it's. I really do love the plot and the story of this.
Oh yeah, it's pretty
a
original
mystery,
too.
but it's not the mystery that Leonard thinks it is.
Yeah, no. And to
Because-
you as the viewer, it's not really a whodunit
No.
kind of solving a mystery thing. It's very much about the trip through Leonard's mind
Yeah,
in
because
this thing.
Leonard is seeking, pretty much trying to find who he thinks murdered his wife.
Correct.
Correct.
To get vengeance basically.
Vengeance, and throughout the entire
Even if
movie,
he doesn't remember it.
yeah, which he mentions to Carrie Moss's character. In the,
Yes, correct, which is funny because that's exactly how the movie plays out.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you find out by the end of the movie that, well, according to Teddy, Joe Pantoliano's character, he has already killed these people that are responsible for this.
and it
he
seemed
just
like
doesn't
it
remember it.
had happened early on.
Yeah, like pretty quick.
Yeah.
After this, this because you come to find out what had happened was there's a break-in. These two basically crackheads or whatever broke into their house. Didn't realize that chick, the wife was by herself.
Mm-hmm.
He comes busting in. They're killing her, raping her, whatever. And he shoots one of them. One of them hits him in the head. He hits the floor, like he said,
Right.
and that's what leads to this.
His amnesia,
The amnesia. Yeah.
and but he thinks didn't it say that the wife didn't really die?
Didn't die. Yeah, no, that's what you find out. Like
Yeah.
she doesn't end up dying, and the whole thing about Sammy's story is what his life becomes, where the wife just doesn't know how to deal with this thing.
Yeah,
And she creates this ultimate test to see if he's faking it or not, and he gives her
a double dose or something,
her
doesn't
insulin injections daily because I guess he's good at it or whatever.
he? Right.
And so she, at the time, regular time, she's like, it's time for my injection. And then he gives it to her and he goes and sits back down. And then a minute or two later, she's like, it's time for my injection. And she does that like 3 or 4 times in a row to where now she's overdosed herself
Yeah,
on the insulin, or she has allowed him to
yeah.
because he just keeps doing it.
Now, would you think
Unbeknownst
with
that
her
he's-
though that you would continuously allow that? Though?
Like, why would you do that? You know what I mean?
Unless you are like, I can't
Over
deal with this life anymore.
Yeah, assisted suicide.
No, that's what I thought, but it never says. But that's kind of what I gathered. But if you think, if I were Leonard, would I want to really know that?
No, well, yeah, that's the thing, And
Like, would it be better to live and know what he's suppressed and doesn't remember, or continuously living
Yeah.
the same day, not remembering anything?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't either.
I mean, that becomes. I mean, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for repressed memories, I suppose.
Yeah. What about characters? You got any favorite or least favorite characters?
I mean, they were all pretty good. Really.
I thought they were solid characters because there's only pretty much 3 main lead characters.
Yeah, that's what I was
you
going to say. There's really just the 3, and they all play their roles good. And some scenes are better than others. But I mean, Guy Pearce's character is pretty. They're all. I mean, they all.
I think
play-
they're all
they
solid.
all play the roles good.
I think the dialogue's good. I do like. Now we've seen some movies. Now I'm not sure about your feelings on voiceovers, but I think if they're used correctly, they're very effective.
Sure.
And I think in this movie they were very effective.
Yeah.
Because most of it is Guy Pearce. It's all his voiceovers.
Yes.
But I would say at least half his dialogue would be voiceover, wouldn't you think?
And a lot of it. Yeah, there's a lot of the movie that is just his dialogue, because even between the voiceovers and again the scenes in the hotel room on the phone where you don't hear the other end of the phone call.
Not at all.
I mean, you just hear Guy Pearce's side of it.
Another scene that would be like, and this would, later on I guess this could segue into the favorite or least favorite scenes. And this was a scene that I actually did remember. So Guy Pearce is running, and he's like, "Am I chasing this guy?" Oh, I guess he's chasing me.
Yeah, like, what am I doing? And that's
Yeah.
part of the voiceover. He's like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And, like, I got half lost there because it might have been, like, around where I was dozing off because, like, I was watching and I realized that he was chasing somebody. Then even I got lost as a viewer because then the guy was chasing him.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, that whole thing was over. And I remember I looked at Stacy and I was like, what happened to the guy? What happened to that? Like, somebody was chasing him, but then it was just over and the story had moved on. I was like, what in the world
Just happened here.
just happened?
Yeah,
And right about that point is where, like I said, I got up, I kind of walked around, I got back into the movie again, and it captured my interest pretty quick in
Yeah.
the second half. Because again, when it hit that halfway mark, I was just like, wow, man, I am lost right now, and there's an hour to go still. And I was like, I hope they tie this
It's about
together.
a 2-hour movie, isn't
It's
it?
totally a 2-hour movie. Yeah, I mean, it's a long movie.
Yeah.
Don't, like, if you want to watch the movie again, don't come home from work and stretch
Yeah.
out in bed and
Yeah,
relax
this is a movie
and put it
where-
on because you will fall asleep.
Yeah, this is not just this is a lot of the movies actually we do on the show are movies you need to actually try to sit and focus on. You
Yeah,
know,
watch,
maybe with
yeah, watch the
dialogue.
movie. You know, yeah, they're films. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Because some movies you can have on in the background when you're doing other things. If you miss a
Sure.
part, you still
You
understand.
can still follow the storyline,
But some of these movies, not so much.
not so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a little bit more going on
Yeah.
beneath the surface.
And you have to kind of, I guess, you have to apply yourself a
Yeah.
little bit more with some of these films.
Yeah, but isn't that what watching movies is really about?
I think so.
I mean, because if you're gonna
think so.
watch a movie, you're gonna watch a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing, like you said, put something on in the background, this kind of stuff going on. And,
Yeah.
You know, if you've seen so many superhero movies, I mean, how much of and that's not to knock, 'cause there's a lot of good movies. I'm
Right.
not saying that, but
Except
as far as that
Ant-Man
trope-
3. We haven't watched that one. Was that what it
Which
was?
one?
Ant-Man 3?
No, we still
Was it-
have
was
not
it that
watched
one?
it. Yeah, it's
Okay.
something like that. For anybody that missed the earlier episodes of this show.
It's a throwback.
Yeah, throwback to some earlier episodes and the accidental purchase of Ant-Man on Prime that we still have not watched.
Yeah. But yeah, those do have pretty much a structure that you basically know.
You kind of know.
Someone's going to be, in jeopardy, but, they're going to make it. The city's going
Right,
to be
right.
destroyed.
Right.
Maybe
And
some
it's
superheroes die, but we've got alternate
Yeah.
universes.
And
So
and it's ultimately going to have a happy ending.
Yeah,
Probably. Some of these movies that we do, not necessarily a happy
No.
ending.
And this one didn't.
No, it just didn't.
No.
There was it was not. It's not that it was a sad, somber ending so much. It's just it wasn't even an ending.
No. Because
It could have just started looping around all over again
Yeah.
if they'd, you know what I mean?
Because what happens really if you go on beyond, so Teddy's shot?
Well,
I'm trying to think.
I mean, is he? Because like that's how the movie starts.
Yeah, so you
the
don't
movie
know
starts
when
with
Hunter-
a dead Teddy on the floor, and then it starts running in reverse.
Yeah.
For a minute, but when the movie ends, he hasn't killed Teddy.
Right.
Teddy, he just leaves him at that building,
That's true. That's
and he's
true.
searching for the keys
That's right.
to his car, and that's at that point is when he gets into Jimmy's car, which is where the Jaguar comes
Yeah.
from. That he has at the very beginning of the movie, and you don't find out till like the last two scenes
That's where it came from.
that's where it came from.
So I don't know. It's just a movie that can be rewatched and studied, and I think every performance is a very subtle performance, very solid,
Sure.
and I don't know. I think everyone should maybe give this a try. What about the score and the music?
It's good. Like you said, it's a more melancholy, kind of somber score. But again, that's why, like you said, you put this one on to go to bed if you want.
Yeah, this would be one that you could have on.
I don't do that so much anymore, but I could easily see this back when I did that on the regular, which was for a long, long time.
Right.
Easily, because again, the music's pretty chill. There's a lot of dialogue. There's not a lot of like high action,
No.
screaming, gunfights, car chase, nothing like that going on.
But there's a lot of like, what's going on?
But yeah,
What?
like
Did
wait
I
a
just
minute.
see that?
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, I
You
backed
know?
it up a couple of times because I was just like, wait a minute, like what is going on right now? But it's funny because that's kind of like when I read the Roger Ebert review after I don't read the reviews until after I've watched the movie. Like I'll watch the movie and then I'll go do some
Right.
little further
research about it, because you don't want to be
influenced.
swayed.
Yeah, no, right, correct.
I agree with you 100%.
And Ebert had mentioned that again. It was one of those movies that you weren't really It was he kind of felt like you were kind of meant to be confused still at the end.
Yeah.
There was no mystery to solve.
No,
it was
and
just
no real resolution.
No,
Leonard is probably just going to be continuing
this whole thing, you know. And I started wondering when I was watching it. At one point I was like, is this going to play out to one of those things where he's sitting in a mental institution somewhere and none of this has even happened?
Just
it's
all in
just
his
playing
head.
in his head, but that's not how it plays out.
No.
Or is it? You know what I mean? Because then you still got to wonder, is he just, I don't know, you know, because again,
and
logic
I think he left
would
it
tell us.
where I think that's what Nolan wanted, don't you?
Yeah,
that he
probably
wanted that
like
mysterious, ambiguous, kind of ending.
Yeah.
What you might think happened might not be what I think might not happen, might not be somebody listening right now, and I think that's one of the strengths.
Yeah, there's a lot of
unless you want a concrete ending in a movie, which I don't.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking for a happy ending or a concrete ending. I'm looking for whatever ending. I'd love to have whatever ending serves the movie best.
Sure.
But also whatever ending that the creative force behind it thought.
Yeah.
Because they're the one who created it. So it's interesting to see, oh yeah, I might have done this differently.
Yeah. Well, in this one, like when you go to watch it, go in to enjoy it, but leave a little bit of logic like at the door. Like don't take it in with you, because if you start trying to break down the nuances of not being able to remember anything past a couple of minutes, you're gonna really shred the movie to bits, because it's gonna come down to the whole thing of like, okay, like
you're just gonna be critical of every second of it.
It's gonna be like, this would not really actually happen. Like again, this guy, if you can't remember, would not be driving a car, because how would you ever remember where you were going?
Yeah.
Because again, you would just randomly come across something and find a matchbook in your pocket and be like, oh, maybe this is where I was going, but oh wait, no, apparently I've already been there.
Yeah.
Because I have the matchbook, but where am I going? It would be bizarre.
Yeah, you couldn't. You
would have to have somebody. You couldn't function
on your own.
You would have to be in some assisted living, and that's why
have a handler.
You would totally have to have a handler, and it's It's not reminiscence, probably the wrong way to put it, but as we were watching it, 50 First Dates was referenced a lot, because that's the only movie I could think of off the top of my head that had that kind of it's a different storyline, but storyline of, memory issues.
Yeah.
Of course, hers was whole days, or she'd have a day, and every day would kind of repeat, or like not Groundhog Day. That's just repeating. That's not a memory thing, but that's a far different thing than just a couple of minutes.
No, I've always thought. I do remember we were talking, once before about things we thought that would be more prolific in our lives, like quicksand or things like that.
Yeah.
I do remember. I don't know if it was a fascination that I particularly had, or just something in the years that I grew up. But I thought amnesia would be. I thought maybe, I don't know, when I was younger, maybe you could somehow get. I thought it was easier to get amnesia than, because I've never. Well, you mentioned you've had it, but other than that, I've never really known anyone that's had amnesia.
Yeah, no, I haven't. And like I said, I only have amnesia of that span of time.
Right.
And like when I kind of came out of that fog, I hadn't. When I was in that, like I didn't know my name, I didn't know who anybody was or anything like that. It was kind of. I went off of feelings, vibes, I guess. Like I knew I was safe.
Right.
At home, I knew the people around me that I was safe. The times that it got weird. And
did you know that you were were you at your house?
Yeah, I was at my mom's.
Did you realize that's where you were? Was it unfamiliar surroundings?
No, I think it was all completely unfamiliar.
Wow.
And so like the way the story goes, and again, these are stories that's just I was told, because I was not.
I have no recollection.
But I mean, I was awake. I was walking around.
Right.
But like they have stories of me, like there's times when I was just kind of like looking at my hands, like almost I didn't know where my hands were.
Wow.
Like almost, yeah. But as I came out of that fog, like it all came back. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I knew who I was. I didn't, I just lost that span of time. But again, during that span of time, it was bizarre.
Yeah, I can
It
only
was
imagine.
bizarre. Yeah. And
I
the
mean,
only time I got freaked out, and this is actually why I didn't end up in the hospital after the second seizure when I came home, is because when the ambulance came up to get me, this was during COVID times, mind you. And so when the rescue squad came up, they came up in like some COVID gear. Like I was all, and they were probably in some suits. And in my mind, they were probably men in black coming to take me or something, because I have a history of like, there was a point in time I'm like, probably I was on a list for speaking out about some stuff or something. And so I freaked out and they wouldn't take me. And in fact, they called the other rescue squads and told them not to come up there.
oh wow.
Yes.
What you describe reminds me of like in Back to the Future when Marty McFly has that comic book with the guy with the suit, and then he crashes
Yes.
the car into the barn and then
Yes.
sees somebody.
Yes, and from the story I was told, that's kind of what it was like, and that's probably in my mind. I was probably like freaking out. No, you are a threat to me,
Wow.
and so they wouldn't take me.
No, the only thing I've ever had with time, I a couple years back, I had surgery on my pinky. It was severely dislocated, and I went under and had surgery. And the surgery was a 4-hour surgery.
Yeah.
I never had
Yeah.
been put under before.
Yeah,
But it was so freaky. You're counting down 10,
Yeah,
9,
yeah.
8, and then you wake up.
you wake up.
What?
Yeah, and they're like
4 hours later.
Yeah, like good job. You're in recovery room.
Yeah, you're what? Huh?
No time. Yeah, very bizarre.
Yes,
yeah.
very
And that's
bizarre.
the way that amnesia thing was. Like I remember the bits and pieces, but I don't remember waking up, going to sleep. I just like none of that. And then it seems like just one day, I was kind of better.
Right.
You know what I mean? And better in the sense that I was more cognizant of the fact that something had just happened.
Right. And you knew your surroundings and stuff. a
Yes,
little bit
and I
more.
recognized, okay, this is my mother, this is my girlfriend, this is my daughter, and like, I knew what was going on, but I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And that's when I started hearing the stories. And my girlfriend Stacy, she showed me one video, and I still, because she had took some videos during this time, and I'd watched one of them, and I don't even really remember it now, because it was shortly thereafter it happened, when I was still just very vague in my mind. But it was pretty disturbing, and I can remember having this look on my face. You could see it in my eyes. It was just like vacant,
Right.
and
Wow.
it was pretty freaky.
So I can't even imagine if you went through that, what Leonard is going through.
Yeah.
Every few minutes.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And can you imagine, like we spoke of earlier, how much really he's been taken advantage of?
Oh, completely. Like everybody could. 'Cause
Yes.
he would not have any idea.
No, not at all. Originality, I think very original.
Yeah, I think it's certainly original. It's certainly original, because again, there's a couple of amnesia-y-ish movies, like Born Identity, stuff like that. Kind
Born
of comes to mind a
Identity,
little bit.
Liam Neeson has one.
Yeah. So
Or maybe
I mean,
a couple. I think he has one called Memory and another one where he's like a doctor, but he goes to give like a speech at another college, but they're like, "You're not that doctor." Like I can't remember the name of that one, but I
don't
guess
know
it's
if
your typical Liam Neeson action later career Liam
right,
Neeson.
right.
But
But the way they told this story was not. I would definitely give it
yeah,
some points for originality for
yeah.
sure.
And I would say, what would Memento be compared to? What would you compare Memento to?
I mean,
I'm trying to think what IMDb would compare it to, but I'm not really sure because there's not really. Let's see what we got here. Shutter Island.
well, no. I mean, that's not. That's an okay one. Again, that's a story. Shutter Island, of course, is somebody that doesn't remember what actually happened, trying to solve a
Right.
mystery of some sort. Sure. So yeah, I mean, I definitely suppose it's. Yeah, I mean,
Let's see. These are
That-
just
that
some
could be
suggested
close.
from IMDb. Obviously, they give all of Christopher Nolan movies. Fight Club, that has to do with memory and split personality.
well, Fight Club could be a safe, comparison given Teddy's phone number. The
True.
the Easter egg there.
And nothing else really. From the list it gives me here, none of the choices really do seem to to mimic what Memento would be.
No.
So I think it's a very original movie.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's worth checking out.
Yeah.
Just again, do it in the right context and
Yeah. Now, if you're expecting, an action movie, a Star Wars action movie, or a Fast and the Furious high octane movie, this is not for you.
No,
This
no,
is more
for
of a.
sure.
I mean, would you even consider this maybe a character study?
Yeah, I could easily see that.
I think so too.
Sure, because you find yourself again. Most of the movie, you will find yourself just kind of half contemplating what.
You're with Leonard.
You're with
it's-
Leonard, yeah. I mean, straight up, and everything else is just kind of supporting that story of his what's going on in his mind.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm guessing we would both recommend this.
Yeah, I mean,
I think so. It's on what
Prime.
Prime?
Yeah, we watched it on Prime.
It's also on. This is kind of interesting. So I watched it on HBO Max, which has now changed to Max.
Oh, well, interesting because when we checked out the Watch Now options, it was Prime, which we had, and then but it had Max, was a Prime subscription channel, basically.
Very
what
interesting.
It suggested, which was, you know what? It seems like I've mentioned this before, but we mention these streaming platforms that we watch the stuff on all the time. We need to contact these cats.
Yeah, we do.
And be like,
Hey.
hey, Netflix, Prime, Hulu.
Hook us up.
Your platforms get mentioned on the regular on us. We're gonna start bleeping it out, and we're not gonna tell people what we're
Yeah.
watching it on.
No, you gotta
Unless
guess.
you gotta pay us.
Yes.
Let's say this is America. Come on.
Now this is interesting. I'm going to say recommend Memento as well. So next week I'll go ahead and give the film. Now this is
Dead
a
Man.
kind of a. Would you say a very? It's not difficult to find now, but at the time it was an obscure film.
Which
Dead
one?
Man
Oh, Dead Man.
with Johnny Depp. It is
Yeah.
streaming.
I'm not sure because I haven't looked
I
yet.
think it was on Amazon Prime. To be honest, I looked last night.
Oh, that would be good.
And I was very surprised that it was on there.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see it for a while. And
Oh, it's
honestly,
on Max.
Oh, okay.
It's on Max.
Word. Well, we'll watch it. Cool.
So-
So I've been wanting to see it for a while. I stumbled across it some time back, and I just still haven't. And I actually talked to somebody this morning, somebody that I work with down at Black Bear, has seen it.
Really?
And I mentioned to him that we are going to be doing this on the show, and he just kind of smiled. He said it's good. He said we'll enjoy it. Of course,
See, that's-
it's a black and white Western. Basically, he
That
said Billy Bob Thornton's in it, which I did not realize.
I didn't realize that either.
Apparently, no. Yeah, I didn't realize. He said it's good.
Now I had heard of this. I used to in a lot of
I'm
the
looking
knowledge
forward
that I
to it.
have about movies. I was trying to pinpoint. I was trying to go back in history in my mind and see when it really began. And it began when I was younger. However, there used to be a magazine, Entertainment Weekly.
Sure.
Obviously, it came out weekly.
Yeah.
And somehow I don't remember subscribing to it, but I remember it just starting to come. And
Yeah.
after that, I did renew. First issue had Kevin Costner on the front, spitting water out of his mouth toward the camera.
Whoa. Was that for
And-
like Bull Durham or something?
It's for Waterworld.
Oh, Water World. Oh, wow. I went too far back with Bull
Yeah,
Durham.
June 10th, 1995.
Wow. That's how old that movie is?
Yep,
Wow. I've
95.
never seen that one either.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, kind of bits and pieces, but
Now,
it seems like I sat down at one point to start watching it. I didn't. I mean, I might enjoy it more now, maybe.
Waterworld, here's the thing about Waterworld. I saw it in the theater, and I thought, yeah, it's a good movie, but I do not understand how $200 million was spent.
Right.
Watching it now, I
Yeah.
understand why $200 million was spent.
Right.
Because everything in Waterworld
Yeah.
looks fantastic now.
Oh,
Because
right.
it's all practical. It's all real.
Yeah.
It all
Okay. I can
they
see that.
they built the sets that were in Waterworld in the ocean.
Yeah.
A hurricane took it down
Wow.
twice.
Jeez.
Kevin Costner was lost at sea on a jet ski for 10 hours because they couldn't find him.
Wow.
And they
Well,
so every time an
Yeah.
extras had to use the restroom, they would ship them, take them back because they had to
Wow.
be far enough in the ocean so there could be no land seen in the background.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was a very
Okay,
tough suit. But
I
when
can see that.
when you watch it now, it's pegged as an action movie, and it does have set pieces that are action.
Yeah.
But it's really a drama,
Sure. Well, I can.
and it's not It's not bad. It's a guilty pleasure. I've
it?
seen it probably, I don't know, 20 times.
Wow.
I've seen it quite a few times.
Oh, we'll see. I'll have to check it out.
So,
I might
but
go
it
on a
is
little
long.
Kevin Costner binge. Yeah, well, a lot of his good stuff is.
Yeah.
You know, because I was thinking about The Postman.
That one's long.
Too.
That
It's
one's
long. That's a good movie too. I haven't seen that in a while.
yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
That's an
of his.
underrated movie as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, that's a good one.
But yeah, that's one. If you haven't checked out Waterworld, it's not streaming anywhere though. I just happen to have a DVD copy of it.
Well, awesome. I happen to have a DVD player still.
So yeah, that'll be very cool. But yeah, Memento. Do you have a favorite Christopher Nolan movie?
You know, I don't know. When I'm looking at this list that we have on our itinerary here, I haven't seen Tenet. That's another one I keep meaning to watch. I was a real big fan of Inception when it came out. And that's one I've watched. I've watched it a bunch of times. That could be a fun one to do.
Yeah, that could
in
be
the future, because that's one of those ones where I came out of it thinking about just the whole notion of what the movie, you know, is about, and this whole
Right.
thing of like going deeper and deeper in your dreams, basically planting the seed
No,
for a change of a mindset. You know,
that was a great one. I've never seen Interstellar.
oh, it's a pretty good one. Is that the one with Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's pretty interesting, man.
Okay.
It's a good one. It's kind of a long one too, and I've only watched it once. But it's good.
I think
I
a lot of
won't
Christopher
tell you.
Nolan movies are long.
Yeah, they are.
Like
I'm not going
especially
to tell
his
you much
later
about that one.
his later movies. Now I did try to watch Tenet, and I've not looked. I read what it was about, but it was been long enough that I can't recall what it was about. But I do remember it was very interesting, but I didn't understand what was going on.
Oh yeah. Does it have some kind of time travel-y, time shift, some kind of element to it? It seems like I
Yes,
was reading.
when the action sequences, they're in reverse. They happen backwards. It's very
Oh, that's kind of crazy.
odd. So I can't really
Because
describe.
I want to say, well, I asked because I want to say it showed up when I did a search for like time travel movies, because I'm a big fan of time travel
Yeah.
as a trope, and yeah, so I want to say it showed up, and it's on my list.
And speaking of time
watch.
travel, we're going to be exploring 12 Monkeys.
Yeah,
pretty
week after
soon.
next. Yeah, after Dead Man.
So we got Dead Man.
I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah,
And-
I'm a big fan of 12 Monkeys. I keep wanting to find. I'd like to find the book.
Well, you
or-
mentioned that 12 Monkeys has a
There's
TV show.
Yeah, they made a series out of it. I want to say they ran it 5 seasons, maybe.
And had you watched
Oh,
it
yes,
all?
I owned it. I ended up buying it all because
Okay.
I got really into
And
it.
was it-
It's super good.
Was it the same premise as the film or no?
Oh, yeah, no, they took that same premise and just ran with it.
Okay.
And takes you a lot deeper into what possibly could have been going on. Like, in comparison, personally, like I like the series way better than the movie.
Right.
And the movie was good, and it gives you a thing.
But the series can actually dive into it a little deeper.
Oh yeah,
and explore
there's
a little more.
nuances of like time travel and what's going on, but it's built off the same character. So it's
Okay.
still James Cole, it's still Cassandra Rayleigh, it's still it's
Oh
still
yeah,
all the
James
same-
Cole.
Yeah, it's still all the same characters, but and the same doctor. I can't remember the doctor's name. Brad Pitt's. We'll find out in
Yeah.
a couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely.
Tune in for sure.
Definitely. So yeah, this has been a great show. As we mentioned earlier, please go to the social media pages. We've got the Spotify, Facebook, YouTube. Go to Casey Messick's YouTube page.
Yep.
And you're
Facebook,
Gonna, you're
yep.
going to be starting up some new things.
Yeah, I've got some stuff in the works that'll be rolling out next month. We've got a show that's basically like some Appalachian history tales. I don't really have it. It's still got a working title, and then another one, a restaurant kind of stuff that's called Charred.
I like
Should
the
be
name of
good.
that. I
I
like
like that
I
a
like the
lot.
name
I'm
of that.
looking forward to that one. We're going to record some of that stuff here. We're going to record some of it down at Black Bear. The Black Bear. Listen, Black Bear's got a great place to record. Like we should record a show. We'll take our own equipment. We won't
We'll
have
do
the
that.
studio equipment.
Yeah, we'll
because it's
do
got this
that.
stage there, man. It's got this old Texaco gas pump from like the 50s or something up there on the stage. It's nice. It's a nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, I got a picture of it on my phone. I'll show it to you. I mean, so it'd be a nice backdrop for the videos. But, we got our banner back here now.
Yeah, we do.
I can see it on your camera. It's got a pretty good view of it. So yeah, moving on up, we got the banner.
We
and
do.
sponsors and the whole 9 yards.
a lot of
man.
cool stuff coming up
Yeah.
too. So we're going to end tonight's show on Real Talk. I'm Adam.
I'm Casey.
And stick around. In just a few minutes, we will be back with the Other People show.
Yeah, definitely tune into that one. We got some stuff to give away tonight.
Yeah.